All right, we're going to go ahead and take the valve assembly out and the gauge port adapter out. And I never have figured out a good way to do this. If somebody has a good idea, please let me know. I have a piece of 1/2 inch CPVC pipe that fits in here. The hole size is such that it'll fit around the valve so it won't press on the valve stem. Put it in from this end, and then I just kind of hold everything together and kind of tap it on the floor until it breaks loose and everything drives out to the front. Okay, here's the first piece popping out. That's the tank adapter. And here comes the valve. All right. I want you to notice one thing here on this. One of the O-rings rolled all the way off. Came out of its groove. Other ones look okay. These are polyurethane O-rings. Seem to be in pretty decent condition. You'll know when you put it back together and it leaks. Here's how this stuff fits inside here. The adapter fits here. The air is all up in the front end of the tank. The valve sets here. There are the 3 screws right around here that hold the valve in place. This groove in the valve assembly is for the screw that holds the trigger assembly on. This slot in here is for the sear that holds the hammer. This groove up here is for the little pin. It slides back and forth for the bolt assembly. As I said earlier, when the Disco was designed, it was designed to get a lot of shots. 177-22 caliber. Now we're up at 25. Some people even 308 caliber for this, and you need a lot of air to drive those. In this port originally, it really acted as a restriction to the front of the tank. You wanted the valve to just meter out a small amount of air for each shot, and that's how it kept its shot string consistency. Originally, this had a hole in it, probably not much bigger than this Allen wrench, right through the middle. Now, what I have done is open this up. You have to be careful you can't drill it through the center to open it up, because the pressure gauge adapter fit with a sealing ring in the bottom, and if you drill that straight through, you're going to lose that seal, and then you'll leak, and you'll have to get a new one of these. So you have to drill that hole off center. You can drill it quite a bit larger, and that really what it does is creates a reservoir for the valve assembly. Now here's the valve assembly. Here's the pin that the hammer hits. When the hammer fires, look at this one here. Hammer goes, remember it's about 0.6, about 5/8 of an inch travel. This thing flies forward, hits, drives that forward. Now, remember you've got a full tank of air pressure trying to hold that valve shut too. Right now all it has is a little lightweight spring holding it. Now my hammer assembly with the recess on the front end to get the extra travel, what that allows is it hits the valve stem and allows us to continue on past there to get extra stroke length. That holds the valve open longer, gets more air. With the extra weight, hits it harder. You really want these things to open up immediately. so it's a sharp pressure rise. Now we'll go ahead and take this apart. Now, I've opened this up quite a bit. Initially, there's this little screen in the front to keep the leaves and stuff out of there in case you filled with dirty air, with this little seal that went in there. So that was another choke point on the airflow into the valve. I didn't want that, so I drilled this out, opened it up pretty much as big as I could without cutting into the O-rings. Drilled it out. I took and did some calculations, some measurements on how big I could go without getting into the danger zone. Going to take this apart. This is your valve return spring. It really just holds the valve on there under really low pressure situations and when the tank is empty. Not much force to it. I have opened this up quite a bit too. Use a different spring, so I just barely have a little bit of a shoulder to catch there. All right. Now the valve assembly itself, this area right here is the transfer port. Transfers up. Well, you have the 3 screw holes, and then this is the transfer port that transfers up through the breech, through the hole in the bottom of the breech, into the barrel. This area, I've opened that up to fit with a few O-rings, some O-rings to seal with a larger hole size. Then I've taken a Dremel tool inside here and kind of opened this up a little bit, ported it to get better flow. I'm going to take this packing nut out of the valve. This compresses the O-rings, or the O-ring that seals the valve stem. In a normal situation, when the gun is setting idle, this really isn't stopping any leakage because there's no air pressure on it. Only when it fires does it get pressure on it. Okay. It's a tight fit. I'm going to pop the valve out. This valve is quite a bit different than a normal valve. A lot of people have designs for valves and work better than mine. This one does work. Right down here it's neck down some, give better airflow. Its diameter, its head diameter is smaller than normal. You'd have to look at a valve to see how it seals down inside here. But I've drilled that hole out that this valve fits through, and that this, in mine, it's this gray plastic part, seals against. Open it up probably about 30 to 40 thousandths larger than stock, and still have maintained enough sealing seat. Also, a very important thing on this valve is I've opened up the inside of the valve itself with this little boring bar on a lathe. Gone in here and opened up the inside so that the airflow around the head of the valve isn't restricted. Opened it up as much as I could. Basically what you want to do, you know, if this is the valve, it's opening up in here to let the air in. You want to have as much air as possible ready to feed right through there with no restrictions. That's how you get your power, but you lose shot count. So you can't have it both ways with the mechanical setup. And I was after the power. So basically I've opened this up, opened that up, and got the increased stroke length, hammer travel to keep the valve open. To get power, you have to open the valve up quickly and hold it open as long as you can while the pellet is in the barrel. You want it to shut before the pellet leaves the barrel. And that's really the trick to it.